Yeah. You have some photos and audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
No, not for me, for Kelvin.
oh, yeah.
Your audio fine. Your files.
Cue them.
Alright.
Ready?
Yeah.
It's time light. We're going in 4, 3, 2, 1.
A pleasant good morning to members of the media and to everyone who is tuned in to this press conference. Welcome to the press briefing of the Office of the Minority Leader. This morning we will be addressing some matters of concern as it relates to the management of the Tobago House of Assembly. Firstly, I will deal with the motion for reprioritization that was laid in the House by the Secretary of Finance last Thursday, the 28th of November 2024, after which the Minority Leader will deal with other matters of concern to Tobagonians in relation to the management of the Tobago House of Assembly. So firstly, as I indicated, a motion for reprioritization was laid in the Assembly Legislature last Thursday, 28 November 2024. And I will not read the motion in its entirety. What I will do is to just share some highlights of the motion that was tabled and review some comments that were made in the plenary debate. So firstly, the motion sought to advise and to inform the House of the allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly for the financial year 2025, and it also sought to speak to the shortfall of the national budget allocation. The resolutions to the motion spoke to policy measures and associated programs and projects emanating from the budget reprioritization exercises, which are engineered to advance the socio-economic development of Tobago, as well as another resolution for the House to call on the Minister of Finance to allocate funds to the THA in keeping with the approved parliamentary allocations consistent with the prescription of the THA Act 40 of 1996. And what I want to do firstly is to put this year's allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly in a historical context. And the allocation for this year, and let us go back to the request. So the THA requested for the financial year 2025 $3.95 billion. The allocation was $2.608 billion, which is 66% of the amount requested, representing a shortfall of 34%. Historically, we only had one other year, and if we're looking from 2009 to present, there was one other financial year where the shortfall to the Assembly in terms of percentage difference was similar to the 34% that we are seeing in this financial year. And that year was in 2009. So in 2009, the amount that was requested by the Tobago House of Assembly was $2.974 billion, and the amount that was allocated was $2.009 billion. And this was a shortfall at the time of 32.4%. If we bring it closer to home in terms of financial years and we look for the last PNM-THA administration from 2017 to 2021, historically, we would see significant shortfalls as well. So if we look at 2017, the budget request by the Tobago House of Assembly was $5.343 billion. And if we could pull up this information so that while I am sharing, the members of the public could have a view of what we are speaking about today. So in 2017, the budget $2 billion. The difference there is $2.98 billion. The shortfall in percentage terms, $55.8 billion. 2018 again experiencing another shortfall. $4.977 billion was the THA request. The allocation was $2.2 billion. The difference $2.773. The shortfall in that year being 55.7%. 2019 similarly, the request was 4.6895. The parliamentary allocation 2.237, shortfall 2.45, and in terms of percentage 5.23%. And if we fast forward to 2021, the budget request by the THA at that time was 4.712. The allocation was 2.142, a difference of $2.5704 billion, leaving a shortfall in percentage terms of 54.5%. And I took the time to go through those numbers to show you that while the shortfall for 2025 is noteworthy, it is not unprecedented. And it is neither the worst shortfall that we have seen, because between 2017 and 2021, the shortfall ranged from 52% to 55%, which meant that the THA would have received between 48% and 45%. What we are seeing for this financial year is that the THA received 66% of its requests, leaving a shortfall of 34%. So again, yes, we understand that there's a shortfall, but this shortfall is not unprecedented, nor is it the worst that we have seen in terms of what was requested versus the allocation that was received by the THA. And even in light of the shortfall experienced under the past Tobago House of Assembly administration led by the PNM, we saw delivery. We saw the standard of living of persons in Tobago improving. We saw projects, we saw development on the island in terms of social development, infrastructure development, human capital development. So to say that because there is a shortfall, you are unable to deliver to the people, it's not quite accurate. The Secretary of Finance also spoke to the fact that there are a number of line items where the request was lower than the allocation that was received. And two of the line items that she referred to was CPEP and URP. And again, if we go back to those allocations, between 2018 or prior to 2018, sorry, the allocation, the parliamentary allocation for URP was $20 million and for CPEP was $8 million. From 2018, the allocation moved to $18 million for URP and it remained at $8 million for CPEP. So it meant that the Tobago House of Assembly under the People's National Movement also had to supplement the shortfall in the allocation for CPEP and URP. And again, I want to take the time to go through the figures that were supplemented in terms of the expenditure for CPEP and URP under the past administration. So in 2017, the expenditure for URP was 54.94 million, while for CPEP was 25.63 million, keeping in mind that the allocation is 20 million and 8 million. In 2018, the expenditure for URP was $35 million, and for CPEP it was 22 million. In 2019, the expenditure for URP was 39 million, while for CPEP it was 22 million. And in 2020, the expenditure was 51 million for URP, while for CPEP it was $22 million. So again, the then THA had to go back to the drawing board, look at where it could suppress, where it could cut and contrive, and reapportion as it see fit. I want to bring all of this under the backdrop that this administration, although we have heard from almost every member of the Executive Council that there is limited resources, this administration over the past 3 years that they have been in office have received increase in parliamentary allocation year on year. So the Secretary of Finance spoke about the central government exercising its abusive right to limit the funding of the THA. However, when you look at the funding this administration has received, and it continues to receive, increasingly significant amounts between 2021 to present. And what we are seeing based on the allocation that this administration have received is from the time that they came in office, they have received in excess, in terms of parliamentary allocation, in excess of $7 billion. And again, I want to take the time to go through year on year and show the increases to the administration, to this administration of the parliamentary allocation. So, the PNM left office in December 2021. So for the financial year ended 2022, the allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly was $2.357 billion. And again, we could bring this information up for the viewing public so that they can see while I am speaking. At the end of 2023, the allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly was $2.52 billion. That is an increase of $164 million. 2024, the allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly was $2.585 billion, another increase of $64 million. And this budget that was read in September of this year, the allocation to the Tobago House of 2025 was $2.6 billion, a further increase of $15 million. So there has been increases year on year under this administration for the past 3 years. And that increase amounts to over $240 million. More than that, again, we continue to hear the cries of no money and the central government not sending money to the THA and the central government exercising this control over the funding of the Tobago House of Assembly, but members of the public, those of you who are listening and viewing us live right now, I can share with you, based on the information that has been brought to the Office of the Minority to date, for this financial year 2025, we are in the first quarter of the financial year. The Tobago House of Assembly has received from the Ministry of Finance and the central government in excess of $640 million. So in October, they would have received $229 million. For November and December, and this is for recurrent expenditure. For November and December, they would have received $361.851 million. For development program in October, they have received $26 million. And for November and December, they have received $25.25 million. So far, the Tobago House of Assembly has received $642.9 million. Yet we are seeing persons remain unpaid fortnights after fortnights after fortnights. We need to ask the administration what they are doing with the funds of the people. The People's National Movement, even with the shortfalls that I have demonstrated that were received from 2017 to 2021, managed to deliver. And this Secretary of Finance and this administration claims the lack of funding as a reason for non-delivery or the inability to deliver. And I want to place it on record that, as the Secretary puts it, it's not the limited fiscal space, that does not allow this administration to effect social and economic transformation of the Tobago House of Assembly. What it is a lack of management, poor vision, lack of leadership, and mismanagement of the resources of the people. So again, with less funding, the PNM delivered. The PNM built schools, the PNM built hospitals, the PNM built early childhood centers, primary schools, secondary schools. The PNM provided for human capital development, and the list goes on. Built community centers, built health centers. The list goes on and on, even with the lack of funding. This secretary is blaming the lack of funding as a reason why the economy in Tobago is in decline. And again, I want to say, even with the limited funding received, or the less funding that was received under the past administration coming out of COVID, the former People's National Movement administration was able to grow the economy. When the PNM left office in 2021, Tobago's economy was $1.68 billion. Today, 3 years later, the economy has declined to $1.66 billion, even with increases in allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly. So what does that say about the management of the resources? And we have demonstrated that not only they have received increases in the allocation, but they have been receiving the allocation. Another area that I want to address is in terms of the delay in funding. And the Secretary of Finance spoke about delays in disbursement without conversation, consultation, and communication. But members of the public, members of the media, I am sure you may recall that the former Secretary of Finance and the current Chief Secretary, when he came into office, informed the public that he had conversations with the Minister of Finance, and they agreed upon the disbursement of funds from the Ministry of Finance to the Tobago House of Assembly. The Chief Secretary then indicated that the agreement was to disburse from the Ministry of Finance to the THA 2 months and then 1 month. The Minister of Finance also subsequently came and confirmed those conversations. The Chief Secretary also boasted that they were receiving, based on his communication and conversation with the Minister of Finance, they were receiving the allocation in more favorable terms than the former THA administration, who was receiving it month by month. And even in light of that, we saw economic growth. So to say that the disbursements come without conversations, who do you believe? So, members of the media, members of the public, we continue to remain concerned about the lack of accountability and the lack of transparency that is currently being met by this TPP administration. We now have 3 budgets, statements, 3 reprioritized statements, and to date, we are not informed as Tobagonians, as members of the public, how this THA administration spent your taxpayers' dollars. We are not told how our monies were spent, and we have seen increases in the expenditure between 2021 to 2023. And again, I want to go back and share with you year on year the increases in the actual expenditure, particularly as it relates to recurrent expenditure. So in 2020, actual expenditure on the recurrent was $1.919 billion. In 2021, that expenditure decreased to $1.759 billion. In 2022, the expenditure rose to $2.122 billion, a difference of $362.858 million. And in 2023, that expenditure further increased to $2.1785 billion, an increase of $55 million. So between 2021 and 2022, the expenditure by this administration grew by over $400 million. What do we have to show for this growth in expenditure? We are seeing increases in allocation, increasing in expenditure. However, that does not rebound to improvements in the standard of living and improvements in the lives of the people of Tobago. It surely does not rebound to increase economic activity on the island of Tobago. We are also seeing a number of projects and promises. So in 2024, the former Secretary of Finance and current Chief Secretary would have listed a number of projects that they would undertake during the reprioritization presentation. And he went through them division by division. What we saw in the last debate with the reprioritization, persons just came, blamed the central government, gave no account, no report about what they did, why the projects that they would have highlighted as priorities under the financial year 2024 were not completed, and what is in place to complete them in 2025. For food production, we saw what was said to us back then in 2024, the establishment, they promised us establishment of the Tobago Agricultural Research Institute. They promised us repair to fishing facilities. They promised us the construction of abattoirs in Mason Hall and Kendall, upgrade to the tissue culture laboratory. We did not hear anything about those projects in the last debate. Under the Division of Education, the pre-construction works to the Scarborough Secondary, we heard nothing about that. Construction of the Corland Early Childhood Center, assistance to tertiary education students, acquisition of 2 buses for transportation, establishment of Technical Training Institute. There was no report, and there is a list, there are pages and pages of projects that were promised under the reprioritization. We have not seen them fulfilled, and there was no accountability and reporting to you, the people, on what is the status of these projects. And again, all we hear is complain, blame the central government, blame the Minister of Finance. You come and you spoke a lot about why you were unable to deliver, yet you did not share with the public in a meaningful way what are your reprioritization policies and what are your programs. And as the minority and as members of the public, we are asking for proper accountability and transparency as it relates to the People's Fund. So this administration is saying that it is a money problem. The minority and the members of the public, we are saying it is not a money problem, it is a management problem. So the THA's inability to deliver results with increased funding points to a lack of vision, poor leadership, mismanagement, and poor reprioritization. The people of Tobago deserves better. You came into office promising that you will fix it. You had all the answers. You knew what Tobago needed. You said you will fix it. To date, you have fixed nothing. Moreover, what you have done is destroyed all the gains and the work and the economy, everything that was put in place to better the lives and the standard of living of Tobagonians. Tobago deserves leaders who can turn resources into results and promises into reality and plans into progress. Tobago deserves better. And at this time, I want to hand you over to the minority leader who will share more concerns and insights as it relates to this administration and its poor management and leadership.
Thank you very much, Councillor Petal Daniel Benoit, for that clear and concise explanation of our concerns with respect to the reprioritization program. Let me say a special good morning to all members of the media. Thank you for coming. And let me also say a special good morning to the public, both here in Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, and the diaspora. So today we are here again, which is expected to be our final press briefing, official press briefing for the year, unless there's something extremely pertinent that would require the attention of the public. And therefore, I would want to use this opportunity first to extend, season's greetings to all members of the media, all fellow Tobagonians, and to the country, and wishing you a blessed and merry season. Of course, Minority Councillor would have spoke a bit about the reprioritization, and it reminds me of a quote that I saw recently. Excuses are the tools used by the incompetent. And I want to repeat that. Excuses are the tools used by the incompetent. And if we are to be quite honest, what we've been getting from this administration, who told us that they can fix Tobago and fix the issues Tobagonians are facing with, all we are getting from them now that they're in office are excuses after excuses after excuses. Just imagine, the chief secretary fired himself because he recognized he was incompetent as a Secretary of Finance. And he brought in what he told Tobagonians was an expert, a professional in the business of finance and economic development. And you would think that this expert who has accepted the job will roll her sleeves up or her shirt and would come to the table to actually bring meaningful results. And what have we gotten in return? What we have gotten in return from this secretary, who we all expected would bring something new and fresh and reviving to the table, has been nothing again but excuses, excuses, excuses. As a matter of fact, what the secretary, it was so disappointing that in a process that's supposed to be a report to Tobagonians, the average citizen, the average boy or girl listening, to hear this money that you receive from the central government, how are you going to take this money and make it work for the people of Tobago? How are you going to take this money and make it better the lives and improve the lives of the average Tobagoan and the young man who is on the block, hoping, waiting to hear some innovative program that could get them employed? The student who is coming out from CXC and wondering what would be my next move from advanced. Am I going to have an opportunity to pursue tertiary education? And if not tertiary education, can I find meaningful employment? For the mother who has her young children to feed, how are we going to get the social interventions? And all this secretary, who we are paying very good money, could come to tell you, the people of Tobagonians, is that she had conversations and blame the minister. And when I pointed out one serious issue about her conduct prior to becoming secretary, she spent her whole wind-up to attack me, Kelvin Morris, at the personal level and to misdirect, mislead. And if she wants to talk about washing money, the only money I want washed is clean money that is being put in the hands of Tobagonians that belongs to the people of Tobago. And today, I am pleased to report to you, the member of the media, that true to form, we don't just talk. When I raised, following the political leader, Senator Dennis, raising this serious concern about this contract, this $186 million that was given to a contractor who failed to complete a $25 million contract. And we did promise that we would ask the official public body in the country to take a look at this contract, to take a look especially as to the evaluation process of this contract. And I'm pleased to share with you that we have officially filed our report to the Office of the Procurement Regulator, and in that report, we have placed with them a number of information that we believe is critical to them unearthing, to them following, to them investigating what were the real circumstances that saw a contractor unable to complete a design, build, finance, contractual arrangement with the very client, that is the Tobago House of Assembly, for $25 million, and an evaluation committee fully aware of that knowledge, what would have allowed them, what would have convinced them to then turn around and award a contract for over $186 million under the same terms. And today, my qualms, my concern is not specific with the contractor, because the contractor is free to bid as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago on any opportunity that is available in Trinidad and Tobago. But my concern is more with the evaluation committee. And the evaluation committee comprised of persons especially, and it's important that we know the person who now controls the financial management of Tobago's resources was one of the persons who were part of that evaluation committee that made that award of contract to the contractor who failed to complete that contract at Lamy Road. And therefore, the focus today is on the evaluation committee and the role they played. Because there are specific questions we must ask of the evaluation committee. And the Secretary of Finance had an entire opportunity. And at this point, because they had the opportunity in the House, because we asked the question, the political leader asked it outside, we asked the questions in the House, and they had an opportunity to respond and to explain to Tobagonians what were the considerations. And after having that opportunity, all the Secretary of Finance could tell us, and I just want for the elucidation of the members and for their attention, I just want to play what was her response. When we asked, you as the Secretary of Finance, how come you sat on that committee knowing fully well that this contractor was unable to complete a contract for $25 million? How come you allowed that contractor to be awarded a contract for even a greater sum when part of the evaluation requirement is that you must be able to demonstrate an ability to finance and complete the project? So you were unable to finance and complete a project for $25 million. So what would have convinced this evaluation committee that they could now finance and complete this project for $186 million? And the secretary turned around, and her response was simply, well, I wasn't the chairman of the evaluation committee. So in other words, don't blame me, blame the chairman. And more than that, in following up on the chief secretary's response, is that, well, we not paying them directly from THA money. All we giving them is Tobago people land. And I want Tobagonians to understand what would have transpired in that one instance. So they have no problem giving away Tobago people's patrimony. So whereas the PNM would have over time acquired a land bank, invested in the land so that it can be used to the benefit of Tobagonians, this administration is now saying to you, they don't have no problem giving away those very lands that Tobagonians spent significant sums to acquire. So in this instance, they will be giving away the Tobago lands to a developer. The developer will now be able to build homes, sell those homes, acquire significant profit, And the question is, what does the Tobagonian benefit from that arrangement? We have heard no information as to whether the Tobago House of Assembly will be sharing in the profits. We have heard no information as to whether the people who would benefit would be paying a subsidized price. We have heard no information as to whether the people who will be allowed to purchase will be only Tobagonians. So with no information, and then we asked an important question, and the Secretary of Settlement spoke in that debate, and yet he failed to respond. And the question was specific because the information is here sent to the OPR. Did you meet on March the 6th with the successful bidder? Simple question. And to date, even as I speak, we have received absolutely no response. And members of the public, Tobagonians, you know, my grandmother always used to tell me, wherever there is smoke, you're sure to find fire. And the fact that where the smoke is brewing, I can assure you fire is flaming in this matter that treats with a situation where you have a sitting Secretary of Finance who sat on an evaluation committee that awarded a contract to a contractor who is on record as being unable to complete a $25 million design build finance, but yet was gifted a contract for $186 million to do the same design build finance. So I would move on from this, and you know, I want to place and I want to put up some information with respect to Tobago's tourism, because I've always said, and you will continue to hear me say, that tourism should be to Tobago what oil and gas is to Trinidad and Tobago. Tourism should be the lifeblood that drives the Tobago economy. And you would have seen, because they do not have the foresight, because we are dealing with a lot of immature people, what you're seeing is a lot of pettiness. I would have told them in no uncertain terms that Tobago can be a serious foreign exchange earner for the country through tourism. And I heard it echoed recently by Mr. Sabga, Aboud Sabga, referencing to how Sin Kids, through their vibrant tourism sector, you can almost walk in a bank and get up to about $1 million US, because the tourism sector is so vibrant. You have tourists coming in, spending their foreign dollars, and it means that it increases your foreign reserves. And so, when I use that as an anecdotal example to show how Tobago's tourism is on decline, because there was a time when the people who were involved in tourism would be flooded, would have so much income and so much available foreign exchange to take to the bank and so forth. But now these same people, if you ask them a question, they are telling you they are not getting the same kind of earnings. And the fact that they are not getting the same kind of earnings is a clear indication that we are getting less and less tourists coming to the island and less foreign exchange. So, on the screen, you should be seeing, I want with the cruise ship arrivals. Because, you see, Tobagonians, we have an administration from the head to the toe that tells a lot of lies and been constantly lying to the people of Tobago. And if the head is a liar, you could only expect all the others follow the leader right now. So right now there's a competition for King Liar in this administration. And therefore, true to form, the Secretary of Tourism attempted to create a scenario to mask her incompetence, another excuse, to mask her incompetence by taking front before front took her and telling Tobagonians, well, we got 60-something cruise ship arrivals last year, but we will have a decline this year because there's some issue happening at the ports. And this is a scenario that affects all the destinations. People of Tobago, if you hear lie, that is lie. So I want to put up there should be a slide which outlines, well, if we don't have it, well, I'll read it out. So based on data pulled from tourism statistics, I will do a comparison between 4 destinations, and these 4 destinations are very similar to Tobago, both in size, in terms of location, and in terms of destination marketing. So we're going to compare the cruise ship arrivals of Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Tobago, as to demonstrate how far behind Tobago is lagging when it comes to cruise. So first, Barbados, for the 2023-2024 period, their cruise arrivals were around 392. Expected cruise calls in 2024-2025, 398. Expected, so Barbados got an increase, about an increase of 6 or so. St. Lucia, 264 arrivals in 2023-2024. You know what St. Lucia is expecting this year? 459 cruise arrivals. Grenada, 184 last year. You know how much Grenada is expecting this year? 199 cruise arrivals. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 377, and they are expecting about 400 this year, an increase of 40. And Tobago, so I want you to recognize the trend. Everybody, their expected arrivals have increased. But to Tobago, we had something around 60 to 60-something calls. And in Tobago, our expected calls for this year is 40. So while every other island around Tobago, I expect increase cruise calls, Tobago, under the management of this TEQTP, Miss P, of proper management and foresight and innovation and accountability. And therefore the possibility as well as to how come Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent, and the rest of the Caribbean, they are all expecting significant increases in cruise calls, while in Tobago, we are expecting significant decrease. And Tobagonians, we have to take our hands, our eyes, our face out of the sand and really accept the reality that the people we entrusted to manage our affairs just can't do the work. Plain and simple. You have a situation, and on top of that, this secretary is now saying to the country and to the people of Tobago, you see that brand new airport that's supposed to be an enabler, a driver to help boost both arrivals and attract new international airlines and investors. For the Tobago, for them to take that airport and stuff it where the sun don't shine. That is your Secretary of Tourism's. Your Secretary of Tourism say for the government to do like what Princess Margaret told Mrs. Prasad Bissessa with the road, and let them put the airport and you know where. And I'm asking myself, in light and in the face of all that gross failure, when you should be readily happy and excited to use this airport as something to leverage to operators, to talk to the different destinations, to airline service providers and etc. You are saying, let us put that where the sun don't shine. But I am not too surprised, because when you look at the relationship and what is taking place currently in the space, then you should see the synergy between what is happening in Tobago and what is happening in Trinidad. So last week, you had this Secretary of Tourism, a member of the TPP, attacking this brand new modern airport, international airport terminal that is a light, a beacon, a feel good for not just Tobagonians, but the country. Every time you fly in and you touch down and you see this airport coming to life, it brings a sense of pride and joy. And just because this is being done by the People's National Movement central government, the TPP, now in cahoots with their friends in Trinidad, is now trying to create a whole level of scandal, a whole level of mayhem and confusion. And therefore, you had the first attack in Tobago, and their partners in crime, they tagged their partners in Trinidad, and you saw this week the leader of the opposition coming out trying to create some kind of narrative about this airport as to take away from the gains. Just because they know an election is right around the corner, Tobagonians are feeling good about this airport, and they believe it gives the People's National Movement some kind of political benefit. And therefore, Tobagonians, as we go forward into a campaign, we got to recognize that the TPP is the UNC's secret link. They have a secret relationship, and that is they are in bed with one another, political bed with one another. UNC in Trinidad, TPP in Tobago, and their intent is to mash up, to derail anything that is good for Tobago coming from the central government. And they are doing it with the airport. They are also doing it with the autonomy bills. Because you're seeing this prime minister, this leader of opposition, who has not laid foot in Tobago since 2013 after the red wash, now coming to life, all of a sudden interested in Tobago again, while at the same time, you have the autonomy bills, and the question is, I would simply say to the leader of opposition, if you truly love Tobago, you would love those bills. And if you love those bills, you would agree with the central government to pass those bills for the people of Tobago. So don't mama guy with no airport business. If you love Tobago, the proof is in the eating. And the question will be put to the Parliament very soon. And all of Tobago will see whether the TPP's partner in Trinidad, the UNC, if they truly care about the people of Tobago. Because the final thing I want to address before I open up for questions, if there's any, is this most curious statement by the Chief Secretary. I'm reading from a Guardian article. And the headline, Augustine threatens to seek international help for greater autonomy. Chief Secretary Augustine has threatened that Tobago will ask the world for help if the central government refuses to grant the island greater autonomy. Speaking at the Tobago Day Awards before diplomats and ambassadors at the Shore Park Cultural Complex last night, Augustine said Tobago will fight for its right to self-determination under international law. Speaking directly to diplomats seated at the front, Augustine said, "We are prepared to engage you in this, our fight for the right to self-determination in accordance with the Universal Declaration." And he went on to say, basically, that he will be seeking to ensure, he didn't say the Parliament, that the central government, right? He talked about, and this is a matter of human rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. He made it clear that it demands equal status with Trinidad, a federal system of governments, clearly defined boundaries in the Constitution, and full control over decisions affecting its people. And he said he would take this fight to the central government. And, you know, I don't know what they served last night, but whatever they served, I don't want what the Chief Secretary drank. Because clearly, anybody who understands the process would know that the central government cannot give Tobago autonomy. Even the youngest primary school child knows that for Tobago to be granted autonomy by law, that has to be a conversation in the Parliament by parliamentarians that requires a special majority, meaning that all members of the lower house, both government, central government, and the opposition have to agree on whatever is the conditions upon which Tobago will be given greater autonomy. But for political theater and just plain old wickedness, ladness, and dishonesty, the Chief Secretary is trying to sell a case like it's the central government that is withholding this thing that is Tobago's autonomy, when the PNM is on record, both nationally, both within its party, passing resolutions in support of autonomy. It is the PNM who has led this current autonomy pursuit, led by Mr. Orville London for years upon years, that brought it back to focus. It is the PNM in the Parliament that has preserved this issue and ensured that it can still give life to this issue of Tobago's autonomy. So to pretend and to try to cast that kind of aspersion, clearly the Chief Secretary drank something that perhaps messed with his mental faculties. So, brothers and sisters, members of the media, this is your minority wishing you a very Merry Christmas and all the best in 2025. A 2025 that, you know, is going to be very interesting. Of course, we will continue to be very engaging, very available to you all, and notwithstanding that this might be the final public appearance of the minority in this form, we really felt it important that we speak to the people of Tobago on these issues, because we know Tobagonians are feeling the pain. What this boils down to, all the conversation, Minority Councillor did a very good job at bringing the numbers so Tobagonians understand what is at play. But numbers aside, what is happening in Tobago is that the money that we are receiving The average Tobagonian is not feeling it. It's not in the stores. It's not in their pockets. It's not in their homes. And this is what we are talking about, $7.5 billion spent in 3 years. So this isn't no little bit of money. So don't let them fool you and make it appear, because you know in some quarters they say the central government not giving them no money. That is not true. They have gotten $7.5 billion. And the question is, where has the money gone? Any questions? We will. So I really want to thank you all, and may you all have a blessed and productive rest of the year. May God keep us safe throughout. Thank you.